Hello and welcome to Live Tech Keynotes. It's September time, which can mean only one thing. It's time for an Apple event. Welcome. I am John Coles, and this is our prediction show for 2013. Joining me today is Mr. Brian Monroe.
He's muted on his end.
Howdy there. I'm sorry, my fault. Hi there. So sorry I was messing that up. But anyways, yeah, I'm here to talk about the predictions that's coming up today for the Apple event on Tuesday. So
Cool Torres.
Joe,
and also
you
joining
there?
us is Joe DeMax.
It's a pleasure to be here once again, and I'm very excited to replace my dog-tired iPhone 4S.
So I suppose we should get started and kind of give a brief intro. So obviously there's an Apple Media event on September the 10th. No, September the 10th.
Something.
Yeah, September the 10th,
yes.
which is this Tuesday. Sorry, I have events all this week, so my brain is like, in which we are expecting an iPhone 5S and an iPhone 5C to be announced, as well as the release of iOS 7. It's not looking like we're going to get iPads, though, is it?
So, I mean, right, no. So, but basically, let's just talk about these new models. So, the iPhone 5S, successor to the 5, right? Mm-hmm. So,
Yes.
very much the same. But the iPhone 5C is something completely new, and that we'll get onto that later in the show.
Well, the iPhone 5C is something that's both brand new and also, reasonably old, because they did it with the last series of iPod Touches, so something that we know Apple do.
What, make colored stuff?
Yeah.
But a lower-priced
That's not
iPhone.
old-fashioned at all.
But
I'm saying in terms of the size of the case, I mean, the old iPod Touch is essentially the same size as the iPhone 5, so the screens are already there, and it was just a matter of time before they would release something for the lower end of the market.
So, I mean, let's talk about what we know. So today on MacRumors.com, an excellent website, there were a bunch of pictures of the logic boards posted, and the 5C's logic board is apparently very, very similar to the 5S. Now, for any would-be 5C owner, this is very good news, because this says to me that the technical specifications are pretty similar, and that's going to be great.
Right. I think we'll see one of two things that will happen with that. I think one of the features we'll mention later, which is obviously the fingerprint scanning, I think will come to the 5S, but not necessarily the 5C. I think the 5S is going to be targeted much towards, not to say that adults aren't going to have the 5C or that children aren't going to have the 5S, but I can see that the 5S is going to be much more of an adult phone, of a person who has more disposable income, and also for enterprise. I can't see the 5C being something for enterprise.
I disagree.
No, I think the features that you'll see announced on the 2, I think will mean that the 5S will have more. I think you might see things. I don't know whether FaceTime audio calls will come to the 5C. I would assume they
I think
will.
that's a global OS feature. I don't think that's going to be restricted.
Well, you don't know, because at the end of the day, there has to be a differentiation between the 5C and the 5S, other than, this one's coloured and this one isn't. Apple has to offer different features for the two phones, whether they'll do that in software or hardware.
So do you think they'd artificially limit them?
Not artificially. I think you're confused about that, Joe, and we'll bring this up. I don't think Apple would necessarily cripple, per se, a model of the phone. It's a question of seeing whether or not they're actually trying to make it the same with the same way they did with the iPad Mini, making it different enough from the iPad, even though they're both potentially the same resolution size, the same battery life, and certain other things. They're giving it a different kind of lease on life by bringing down the specs to a smaller device or smaller price for the device point, along with additional colors. Again, the rumors are they're saying they're going to do, means that it'll open up the market for more people to use the phone in developing countries, which traditionally wouldn't be able to afford being able to buy a full iPhone at the price that people end up buying it, because they, like I said before, earlier on the stream here, I was saying people usually in other countries end up buying their phones outright and don't buy them on contract. In these other countries, places like China and India, and in even other countries where they don't have contracts. So That's why it's
Yeah.
very important to get down to a better price point. So
And I think the other thing with the 5C, and it kind of goes in line with what Apple are doing at least in the US at the moment, and whether we'll see this go global, which would be lovely, where you can trade in your old iPhone. I think
right,
Apple's wanting people to move over
To the new it's not.
to the new platforms, to new screen sizes, so that they remove the fragmentation in the market, but also so that
right,
everyone's using the new connectors. Everyone's using Lightning. Because at the
right,
moment, whilst there are a few speakers out there that support it, there's still a lot more things that support dock connectors, including cars, that support Lightning connectors. I've not seen a major announcement from a manufacturer that says, oh, we support Lightning. Everything is, oh, we've got a dock connector.
right. But
And I think that's
I
one
would
thing.
like to
And
say
you
this
think that they're going to offer this cheaper iPhone to just force adoption of the newer connector?
Yes,
And the iPad
absolutely.
Mini helped a lot in that because it was a cheaper iPad
Yes.
that had yeah. And go on, Brian.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and I really do enjoy my iPad Mini. I'm going to say no question, but one of the things that is important is the fact that because the Lightning connector is easy to put in either direction, and you don't have to fumble with direction you're putting it in. Unlike the USB connector, unfortunately, at the other end of the thing, you have to decide which side you're putting it in, and it's easy to get confused about which side you're putting it in initially the first time without looking at it. I think that no question, the more devices they have out there that support in the Lightning connector, the more that they can get the third parties to get on board with doing Lightning connector third-party devices. And also, I'm going to say, again, how do the power output requirements, the things when it comes up, is the idea, the ability to charge things up quicker and faster, and giving them a chance to say that they maybe get better battery life with this idea, getting an iPhone with maybe a bigger battery of some sort to have
Well,
something they'd like to do. So
battery life is something that I think both on the 5S and the 5C we won't see we'll either see a very major improvement on what the iPhone 5 offers or not at all, because the new processor, it could either be more power efficient or it could be more powerful, which will require more power, which is why we're seeing more space for a battery. Because obviously, as people have shown on YouTube, there's kind of leaked cases for the iPhones, and when you try to put the old iPhone 5, the one's not even announced, when you try to put the iPhone 5's logic board into the 5S, apparently, the logic board is too big. It doesn't fit because the battery is now bigger. So
right,
I think we will probably see a more powerful processor that's probably slightly smaller, but it's whether it uses more power or less. I mean, if they could get the iPhone to the point where you can, on web and Wi-Fi, you can get 16 hours battery life, true battery life, then I think the iPhone 5C and 5S you'll see selling really well, because people want an all-day battery. At the moment, my iPhone doesn't last all day, but that's because I'm an excessive user, so I have a Mophie, battery case. I'll be buying the iPhone 5S. I would have thought. I don't see why I wouldn't, especially if it has a fingerprint reader on it, just purely from a security stand. That would make it so much better.
And I do want to bring the security thing. I think there's no question Apple's been under fire, recently about the idea because there have been a lot of thefts of people stealing iPhones from people just walking down the streets and everything here in metropolitan cities, San Francisco, New York City, London, places kind of like that. And I know that it's something that if Apple keeps on working on making security better, so they're harder to steal and fence to third parties, is going to be a good thing. And if this fingerprint sensor is something they end up being able to do to get it to be something that they can get them to not, and there you go, showing a video, I'm assuming somebody gripping somebody's phone off.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's something that they can make it so the thieves basically just have to want to pass up the iPhones and move on to something else would be a great thing,
Well, I think, and this is also with an iOS 7.
And including also, I'm going to say, the idea of mobile payments. The idea is the fact that it really hasn't been tapped in as much. I mean, Starbucks definitely has done some, and a few places have really gotten it going with Passbook. But I do believe that we're going to see within the next year really a big shift in the marketplace with really people able to take advantage of using their phone as a mobile wallet, and the fact that they can take that phone where they go and be able to use it for payments. In some even places like Japan, I know this too, where they actually just SMS type stuff, but this will even be more secure. So it means it'll be something that they'll actually know you are the person who's making the payment, so that actually the credit card companies will feel better about taking these things instead of having to use a card swipe. You could just with your finger, you can just swipe it, and then it's there. Again, that's what I'm looking for. Will be great,
With mobile payments, I mean, we've had technology such as NFC for ages. I mean, phones have always had RF in Japan. Like there were Nokia's that had very basic kind of NFC built, and we've had Bluetooth local communication for ages. You could do payment processing through that. It's just that people didn't. You can do payment processing over Wi-Fi. The whole idea of NFC is that you're just very, very localized. But it doesn't look and it doesn't appear as if the next iPhone will have NFC, but it will probably have something like a touch screen. It will have a fingerprint reader. Of course, it will have a touch screen.
Well,
and we've seen in the last week or so that PayPal have released like a payment processor, a handheld payment processor for merchants, for brick and mortar store merchants, rather than their typical online payments. So I think mobile payments is coming, but I'd like to see something like PayPal actually become the default and the de facto. I'd like the option of being able to use my phone as a wallet, but I'd also like the fact that if I could pay for everything using PayPal, I would. I will online. I will go to a website where I can pay using PayPal over a website where I can't. And I would do that in real life. If I can go to one cinema and I can pay using PayPal, and it's a case of just holding up, logging into the PayPal app on my phone and then holding up a QR code, that's instant mobile payments, and that's PayPal. It's brilliant.
One point I want to bring up here is we know Apple has the most credit cards stored online is actually on their servers. So the question then would become, why would you have to go through an intermediary? Why don't you just use your Apple ID there? And that is Apple saying, look, it could be easier than that. We'll take care of the payments for you. We'll become a payment processor at that point.
I mean, imagine if you could pay. If I could pay using an Apple ID. I mean, I've never really thought of Apple, becoming a transaction bearer. And I don't know whether that's something that Apple would want.
They already are. If you think about it, they already are when you think about apps media. And music. You talk media.
And in-store stores, you can pay using.
And in the stores, like I said, when I go into an Apple store, I can do the Easy Pay, go in, like I say, and be able to pay right there.
I think there's a difference between Apple being reliant on itself and other companies being reliant on Apple. I think the mobile payments systems are something where Apple would have to have a real want to go and do it. I don't think we've seen any patents for that, for Apple to go and be a mobile payment operator. So that is a curious idea, though. I'd love it to be true.
So let's move on just a little from the idea of mobile payments and talk about this new fingerprint reader. What do you guys think of that? What do you think it's going to be used for as a replacement to a passcode lock?
I think it could be used
I don't
for
see it being a replacement. Well, I mean, it can be augmented to the passcode lock. I don't see it being a replacement for the passcode lock because of the fact that I'm sure there's going to be some people that, for one reason or another, they don't want to have that be there because they may hand their phone off to their kids or something like that and say, look at this thing, and the phone locks. Then they basically got to grab the phone back from the kid to unlock the phone back again. The question of how secure you can end up getting with these things, and whether or not security becomes a hindrance in that situation versus a feature. And maybe they have different levels. I haven't got a chance to play around with iOS 7 myself, so I don't know exactly if they're putting anything in there in the current builds. But
I think you'll have the option of. I think they'll do it as an option, so you can purely use a fingerprint to authenticate, or you can use a fingerprint or passcode. Much like I think Android, when you have face recognition, you can choose to also have either a swipe or an actual passcode. Now that's because face recognition is really, really insecure. Rather. It's really
You just showed a picture.
Yeah, you don't even need to show it a picture. You just make a similar face, or you just turn the phone back on the person whose it is, or Facebook or whatever. And I think possibly you do it that way. I mean, there's plenty of mobile security things that you could do. You could even, the iPhone 5 has a nice radio around the outside where you could, if people didn't insist on putting cases on their phones, you could actually detect if someone was still holding the phone, and if it wasn't, you could lock it. I mean, there's loads of mobile security things that don't exist. And I think fingerprint security or fingerprint recognition for security would be awesome. It'd also be awesome to be able to, when you're paying for something on the App Store, when you press home to go and get it, that actually authenticates to buy the item rather than having to enter in an Apple ID password every time. I think if Apple's going to integrate it, they'll probably integrate it through the entire OS. So you'll be able to use it for, you'll be able to use it as a passcode for a website.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm thinking
That'd
about
be
as
cool.
far as this whole entire move to two-factor authentication. A lot of places are starting to do that, which is great. And it's made this actually again raises the bar again, where if I want to log into a website or a VPN or something like that, maybe the idea is again it's enough for me to just swipe the home button again. Just the theoretical situation here, I can just log
Yeah.
in and that gives me access to my email, and basically that my work server knows, in fact, it definitely was me looking at the email, not some third party kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
And I
again, it
think
raises that bar of security. I mean, beyond the whole entire NSA stuff and everything else, we're talking just regular people and everything are not going to be able to get into it and, be able to just take a look at your phone and be like, oh, let me take a look at the corporate secrets you have in the
yeah.
inbox kind of thing.
I think that we'll probably see if fingerprint recognition is actually there and it's an API where developers can call it, we'll probably see some kind of app where we can then use that on the Mac as well. So we can use
Right.
the iPhone tethered to a computer, and then you can use your iPhone as a fingerprint reader, which would be awesome because it would mean that you would never have to actually have a passcode. You could just use your fingerprint. I have to say, from like a usability point of view, using a fingerprint is not going to be comfortable. I think most people will end up using thumbprints, which is slightly bigger than the home button, which is interesting.
Well,
Because I press the home button with my thumb, I would never use my finger because I have to hold it like that. So
right.
I think that's interesting. But fingerprint recognition is interesting, and it's hinted at on the invitation.
Yeah,
That's
they have
true.
those silver circles, don't they? And did you guys
Yeah.
see that picture of a box?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on
That
the box. And
clear-
there's a silver ring around. So
And yeah,
I think we probably will definitely see fingerprint recognition. They've bought two companies now that deal with fingerprint recognition. I think it's about time that they released something.
yeah.
Because
And again, these are
I think
things-
enterprise wants it. I think the enterprise companies want a better, more secure phone. The iPhone's already
And-
very secure. You can encrypt it.
And one thing I'll definitely tell you is that because I deal with living in the Bay Area here, and definitely deal with people that are well off and everything. And I know that there's definitely a number of people that are well off that value their privacy very highly. And if you're talking about one of the reasons why many times you'll see people who are well off having iPhones because they know the fact that security is built into the system, right? They don't have to. It's not they're not as concerned in Android where they go out to some app store from who knows where and they install something that if it's something that's going to compromise the security. And it's no question that on iOS and Apple with the iPhone, if they keep on raising the bar of security, that's going to keep them in the lead as for that affluent community that really does value it. Not the people that are lower in economic don't, but people that are affluent really they pay for security systems, they pay for alarm systems, they pay for CCD systems. They basically want to have they basically have security is a selling point. I mean, it's been there for them, but it's also a security point is for corporations, totally for corporations. You have corporations that are doing full disencryption. They want to have everything, every advantage they can get to make sure their data is encrypted and secure is very important to them. So again, some corporations deal with also the same thing. So security is important, and how we can ratchet the bar up to make it better, but how to make it so it's easy is the key, because security has always been one of those things I know we've been dealing with in the world of IT for a long time. Of you dealing with usernames, passwords, resetting these things all the time. Having to have either some little token thing you have to run around with.
Yeah, two-factor authentication. You have to have your phone by you, and but I want to log on my laptop, and my phone's downstairs. You have to go get your phone.
Yeah.
Authenticate. And that's just
Well,
not
or even have little battery kind of card key thing from Secure ID and companies kind of like that. These external
yeah. But then,
token
of course,
keys. I think
corporations don't like things like RSA secure keys because you're then relying on the RSA being secure, which isn't always the best thing. But I feel we should
That's
move
right.
on before we go down another rabbit
that's
hole.
right.
Yes,
Next
yes.
subject.
So let's talk about something that's been very controversial, and that's this.
Ugh.
Really
Yeah.
controversial because
Well, what do you
It's
think
horrible.
of it? What do you guys think of the color? I think it's like it's kind of weirdly growing on me, but I still hate it.
It
Okay,
looks to
here's
me
my
like
take
when
on it.
people...
Go on, Brian.
Go on.
Okay, I was thinking earlier about this color stuff, but I really do believe that in some countries, certain colors are very going to sell very well. Let's just say it's not say people in the United States are not going to want to have a gold-looking iPhone.
Oh.
Definitely some people who want that,
Lord help them.
But I understand.
Oh, just
but
look
here's
at
my
it.
Point.
I mean, come on, Brian. Just look at it. It's
I have to
disgusting.
say, it looks
Joe.
like when people take the iPhone and gold plate it.
Exactly. It doesn't look like something
badly.
Apple would do. Exactly.
Okay, so here's my take on it.
Go
Again, I believe that in some countries where Apple's looking to expand, the colors are the textures are important for the United States. There's definitely no question how the phone feels in your hand and everything else. And for everywhere, basically, we're all human beings. We similarly touch things. But the point I'm trying to say is that in other countries, like I said, I know red envelopes, for example, are a sign of good luck in China, for example. And certain things, certain colors are, even gold or another good color you see in India and China and in the Far East countries, well, Far East to me anyways, basically. So India, China, and Japan, we're seeing certain colors, no question, are going to be colors that will help sell the phone over other companies that are maybe not selling phones of those colors, or again, just add an additional little checkbox which says, okay, we have a phone that colors this color, which meets the needs of that market. So that's my take on it. So,
Would you
and I'm
have
not
one
here
for
to judge
yourself?
for say, what?
Would you have one for yourself?
No.
I wouldn't primarily because I would probably go for the platinum colored one myself if I was going to go for something other than black. I mean, that's where things are at. But again, it's a preference thing. I mean, you talk about people in the United States who love marble countertops and stainless steel, appliances and things kind of like that, and that's what they
But
want.
there's a difference
That's
between
what's in style now.
something
So
looking good and look. I mean, I think that color is very much targeted towards females. I think the females also tend to prefer white iPhones.
Yeah.
From experience, I think white iPhones seem to sell better to the female market. I think a gold iPhone probably would sell better to the female market as well.
Okay. Well, okay.
So
Okay. How about
maybe
this?
it's not for us.
What about this? I think that's nice. That's graphite.
This is nice.
That's the black one, right?
I like the slate. The slate's nice. I actually originally ordered a white iPhone, but my cell carrier screwed up my pre-order and I ended up with a black one. I much prefer the black one to the white one. Okay. However, I would consider going with a red iPhone.
Like a metal red iPhone?
Yeah, if they did the iPhone 5 in red, I would consider going with that. I quite like red as a color. I don't know why. I just do. So I like blue as well, but I won't go for a blue iPhone. The baby blue is too light.
Before we rant on about colors, what colors is the 5C coming in?
Red, yellow, blue, orange, and green. I think. Maybe pink. Whatever the colours, the iPod Touch 5 comes in. They are the colours that the iPhone 5C will come in. So let me go to Google, iPod Touch.
Oh, here we go. This is allegedly a picture of all the colours it's going to come in. Camera 4.
Yeah, I'd say blue as well.
Blue, yeah, blue seems like an obvious one.
And I'd say black.
Yes.
I think black and blue are missing from those.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea, the iPod Touch comes in, it comes in a reddy pink, a white, a black, a blue, and a yellow. So
it would make sense if they kept the same colors for this other one too.
What do y'all?
Yeah, and I think it'll be the same Pantone tones as well, because that's what the iPod Nano comes in as well, and the iPod Shuffle.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So I think you'll see
What do y'all think of the general design aesthetic of the iPhone 5C?
Again, from those pictures, they look fine. I don't think there's a problem with it. I mean, it's just a classy looking device. I'm sure Johnny Ives did a great job on that. So,
for someone who drops their phone a lot, it looks excellent.
But the iPhone,
there you go.
The iPhone 5 is an excellent phone if you drop it a lot. There were a lot of drop tests done between the iPhone 5 and the Samsung Galaxy 3, and the Samsung Galaxy 3 is a plastic-backed phone. It's a plastic build, apart from the front, which is glass. It does worse off than the iPhone 5. The metal construction gives it.
But this is presumably going to be a unibody construction.
Yeah, so I believe rather than like the Samsung phones, I think it'll have the same Apple build quality. I think it'll still be as awesome as I would reckon it would be as strong, if not stronger, than the iPhone 5.
Right.
And I think I would reserve like the ultimate kind of opinion on it until I actually hold one in my hand and try it. Because, something can look very nice, but actually in your hand it can feel awful. And something can feel awful in the picture, but actually feel really good by the time you hold it. So, who knows?
Okay.
Moving on.
Interesting take,
Moving on.
John, as always. So what else is there to talk about? So we talked about the 5C, we talked about the colors, the design. Software. Let's talk software. Software is a big thing in these new releases because each one of these brand new phones is going to come with the horrifically designed iOS 7. And I said that to start a
The
flame
lock
war.
screen's nice.
The lock screen is nice. Give you that. What do you
Okay.
think, Brian? I mean, you're a resident fanboy. You know, the shirt says it all. I want to go to you to get your opinion on the the design of iOS 7.
All right, so here's my take on things. I think Apple, there's no question that iOS 7, because of the fact that Johnny Ives is involved with both the hardware and software design in that regards, he's trying to bridge the gap and make it so they don't feel disconnected in essence. And the thing about it is that if we look at what's going on with the look at the iOS 7, I'm going to say there's no question that it is. Let me hold on. Let me restart my video. Hold on just a second. Yeah.
Go on, carry on.
Oh,
Anyways,
definitely a fanboy.
so the point I'm trying to say here is that they
Yeah.
are they are trying to basically get the things to look the same between the colors and everything else. What they're having for the 5C, the less expensive iPhone, and the the iOS 7. I like personally what they're doing with it. Again, they're fresh and look at on iOS, and I think it's going to work out okay. So
Okay.
I
Go on,
have to
John.
say, having used iOS 7, having totally not used iOS 7 for the last 6 months, 3 months, no, 3 months. It's grown on me. Originally, it was very buggy, and I had to restore back to 6. But I think the UI is nice. I think everything apart from the application icons is fine. Parallaxing makes sense once you use it for a while. It definitely allows you to establish the hierarchy of what's on the screen. The translucency is nice. The UI getting out of the way is one of the biggest issues, because when you're scrolling in Safari and you want to use the back button, it's disappeared. You then have to scroll back up so that you can get it back. There's a lot of little things that there are bugs with. Obviously, with iOS 7, some of the APIs have changed, so some of your favorite applications won't work out of the box because developers haven't pushed updates yet. I'm sure a lot of developers are ready for those. Some of us have been ready for the last 3 months and have already submitted updates for those apps that need updating. But I think iOS 7 overall is good. I think what it's bringing is good. I think a lot of the core changes underneath, a lot of the bug fixes are good. However, the app icons are just hideous. And what makes the app icons more hideous than the fact that they're really garish colours is the fact that every other application on the phone that is a non-Apple application is still
normal.
it's the old skeuomorphic design. They all have like designs like, a calculator is a calculator rather than a flat calculator. So I think until every application has a flat icon, it's just going to look weird. Like, it just does. I mean, our icons all look fine because our logos are all flat anyway. They always have been. But you look at the Tweetbots app, and it totally disconnects between that and the Contacts app. The Twitter app totally contradicts everything else. The Facebook app even. Everything looks really funny. The only one that doesn't is the Skype app, and that's because it's a flat logo. It's weird.
right.
And they're too rounded. They're just too rounded. They need less rounding. But that's not going to change, so we'll see.
Okay.
Besides from the look, basically, it sounds like, but the way I'm looking at it, it definitely looks kind of like they're going to be putting a lot of nice features into iOS 7, and stuff we were able to see at WWDC and things we kind of know it's going to come along. I know that it's going to be something that's going to help bring, iPhone to iPhone communications to the next level, because the fact that now you have a ton of people, millions of people around the world will be on the same version of iOS 7, and be able to communicate directly to each other via AirDrop, and that's going to be a big game changer kind of thing. I think people aren't really understanding yet, but it's the idea of, this ability to share just ad hoc stuff just because you're in proximity to somebody. It's way better than just being able to NSCF and touch the phones together. The fact that you can be, a short distance away from them and still be able to communicate with them, it's going to be really an amazing thing.
You mean the ability that we used to have before we had iPhones and people stopped sharing stuff through Bluetooth?
Oh yeah, we
All
used
I'm
to be.
saying, all I'm saying is, when I was at high school, when I had my old Motorola
Yep,
V2220,
that's right.
we used to send music from one phone to another using Bluetooth. And then
Okay.
these happened,
And they like, no, you can't
and
do that.
originally you couldn't send anything through Bluetooth. You couldn't even send contacts. You still can't
Right.
unless you get an app. And even then, the apps don't use Bluetooth to send them. They actually send them up to a server and back down again. It's like
Right.
it's weird that people are going, "Oh, there's a brilliant function. We can use AirDrop." The thing that people aren't realizing is AirDrop from Mac to iPhone. Now that's good communications.
Right.
I believe it works that way. I have not had OS 10 Mavericks to actually play around with it. But I'm really intrigued with that. I think being able to send stuff from my iPhone to my Mac and vice versa. I think again in the corporate world is going to be killer feature.
Right. Well, I know corporations again are
Yeah.
concerned about all sorts of things happening, and that's one of the points they're concerned about is that they disable cameras on people's iPhones and whatnot because they're concerned about people taking company information out that they shouldn't have doing. But the other one that's a concern also with things like AirDrop is going to be something that I'm sure is another little checkbox to potentially either be disabled or looked at as far as how it's going to be handled in many corporations. So
I also think, things like FaceTime audio, I think Apple are trying to kind of push, especially now that they support 4G. Fortunately, my mobile carrier in the UK, 3 are getting 4G and hopefully Manchester by the end of the year.
sure.
But I think things like FaceTime audio are really starting to push the iPhone so that you don't need a text and voice plan, you only need a data plan.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's where mobile devices need to go. Things need to be data-based, not
Yes.
mobile phone network-based. The mobile phone network should just be a glorified Wi-Fi network, in my opinion.
And I agree with you.
That should just be how it is. But that's not going to happen until Apple open up the FaceTime APIs so that anyone can use them. And the iMessage needs to be on every device. It doesn't
I
need
agree,
to just
actually.
be on.
Yeah.
And that's something I'd love to hear an announcement, but I don't think that'll be until next WWDC. I think next WWDC we could hear that FaceTime.
That was the original promise.
Yeah.
Never happened.
I think it will. Because I think
FaceTime,
I think iMessage is Jabber. I think it's roughly based on Jabber somewhere.
Okay. Go on, Brian.
Yeah, I know that FaceTime is definitely based upon some standard protocols. They're using the Java protocol,
I think
which I know even
Jabber
Google is using.
Yeah, I think they use XAMPP for their video chats. I think.
Right.
That's interesting.
The point about it is it is something that is need to get to the next level where these things become more standard and not just Apple tools. Kind of like need to cross-platform tools because anything for communication, at a certain point you got to say, look, I got to be able to call somebody on any device. It can't just be an Apple device. And that's where, even though I understand that some people will stay on iOS and on the Mac platform because of iMessages particularly. I mean, they like iMessage going between the computer and their iPhone and iPad and all the devices. It is also a thing where it's kind of sad in some ways we can't do that with Android/Windows users, because ultimately it's kind of one of the reasons why I look at the reason why Skype is so popular.
It would kill WhatsApp in one shot.
Well, it's not just WhatsApp, but things like Skype also too. Becomes something where if you can just end up saying this becomes the protocol we end up using, this is how we're communicating, then it would just again pave over all these IM / voice apps that gets to be to say, okay, this is the way it's going to go. And it also would help make it so that again, people that are outside the ecosystem Apple system can communicate with people in the Apple system. And same whether you had iTunes on Windows, which I know was a controversial thing initially for
at the time.
Apple
It was like giving. And Steve Jobs, before that happened, he said it was like giving a glass of ice,
water to someone in hell.
Someone in hell. Yeah.
Yes, which is a great analogy. Which is you look.
It's funny because using iTunes on Windows is even more hell than just using Windows. But that's a different story.
I mean, they definitely have improved iTunes on Windows. There's no question over the years. Yeah. But the thing about it is, there's no question it has been an uphill battle for them because they really were starting from a position of strength because they just really weren't Windows developers originally. And that's the thing. So
I just wonder, whether we'll see an iTunes update. But kind of moving on, I mean, one of the rumors is that we're going to see an Apple TV update, obviously with iOS 7 being announced.
Right.
It's kind of... Will we see... Because otherwise the Apple TV menu is going to look dreadfully out of date.
But so does the Mac.
Well, the Mac, we're getting Mavericks. So whether they'll announce that
Right.
Mavericks are going to, because of course, I mean, we're saying that this is just going to be a mobile device, but we don't know.
Yeah.
There's rumors that there could be new MacBook Pros announced. The one thing we don't think that there's going to be, which is actually one of their mobile devices, is iPad and iPad Mini. We think that's going to be
Right.
an October event, which if there is, we'll of course cover. But kind of moving away from the iPhone, what else do we think is going to be announced? I would love a new Apple TV that's
So it's
actually worth buying.
So the current rumors look towards the fact that we won't see new hardware, but we will see a new software revision for the Apple TV.
Yeah.
So,
You mean they're not releasing the Apple TV in different colors?
no.
Oh, I wanted it in champagne, Joe.
I bet you did. But the point is that how the reason that they're going to have to do that software update is to make it look horrible. I mean, sorry, unify the line.
Hey,
I think also.
I think ultimately when it comes down to the Apple TV, again, I have one. Many people have them, and there's no question that they're doing well with what they have right now. It's a question of focus at this point. I think right now all the focus of the company, no question, is getting iOS 7 out, getting the new iPhones out, getting new things happening for hopefully for a new iPad. I mean, new iPad Mini. They got to really keep shoring out the mobile side thing first, then work backwards to the computers, and then the hobby, which is the Apple TV, gets along there someplace along the line. I don't feel like what they have right now is bad.
I think.
But there's no question that I'm seeing. One second, I'm just seeing right now with the potential of this really growing up, which is you're seeing with Disney and other places where they're starting to partner with that are getting some really cool content on there that you wouldn't have known is available now. That it's actually front and center because it's right in your Apple TV. So,
I mean, go on, John.
I think that we will see a software update, primarily because I think that, especially with things like AirPlay, I think some of the protocols may have changed slightly with the new version of iOS 7 and also slightly with the new version of OS 10. The only reason I say this is connecting from my iPhone to an Apple TV has been a bit finicky every now and again. So I'm wondering whether they've changed something slightly under the hood. So I think we'll probably see an update. Because obviously Mavericks has different ways of... Because you can extend your screen rather than just doing it as a mirror. So I think we're going to see a software update, definitely. But whether it is a UI change, that's another issue.
So I see you're talking more about a point release versus a major release of an update for the Apple TV, right?
Well, but that depends if they bring along the new interface. That would be a major revision, really. Like a complete UI overhaul is going to be...
Well, of course, the Apple TV runs iOS.
So basically,
so it'd be iOS 7.
Whatever happens, they're going to move it to the iOS 7 code base. We know that. That's going to happen.
They have to eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But whether it'll be on Wednesday, Tuesday.
But at this point, it's kind of... I don't want to say relevant to which OS it runs is right now at this point because there's no third-party API kits for people
but
to write
it is relevant. Well,
yet.
I mean,
yet.
Again, I agree. And of course, that's the biggest thing that you think about. We're looking at here. Is that it's great that Apple's doing all this stuff on mobile. It's just a little frustrating that we have to still deal with television the way we currently do right now. I mean,
to be honest, because I don't think the Apple TV is ever going to become more than a hobby.
No,
just throwing it out there.
I was about to comment on that.
Apple
So
TV
I don't see it ever becoming more than a hobby until they make the actual TV. That's when it's going to be serious go time.
No, I don't think Apple will ever make a TV because Apple would want to do it as a premium product, which they do with their displays. And they'd make like a 4K TV that everyone would love and everyone would want to buy. But guess what? No one would buy it. The integration would be there between the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac. But I don't see that people are going to go and buy an Apple TV. People don't buy the standalone device.
Well, people do buy the standalone device. I can't see
people buying a display from Apple.
Right.
Because it would be, I'm not saying this is a bad point of Apple. It would be overinflated on the price. It would be an expensive TV.
And a point on the Apple TV that many people point out time and time again is that Apple's business model is that every year you want the new one.
Right.
People will maybe buy a new iPhone every 2 years when their contract's up. People might buy a new Mac every couple of years, but the TV...
longer cycle.
Yeah, long cycle.
And don't forget, Joe, the point that comes up right now in the United States here, I know my area here, a lot of people have already just purchased a bunch of television sets. They've already got themselves their flat screen 1080p TV sets. They have to be something a lot more compelling than just something you could add a set-top box, the Apple TV type box to do. Why would you want to add that integrated when, in essence, the set-top box could be replaced every year for a cheap price at this point without having to worry about the internal components, running, being stale. And that's the thing that's different from that versus the other stuff. So
that's very true. Is that the components will become stale, and that's why you're going to need an update every. Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to say it doesn't make sense for them to make an actual TV set at this point. Yet again, I think the real question is when display technologies get advanced to a point where you say, hey, 4K, 8K TV, whatever, that kind of stuff, where it gets really kind of crazy resolution, and there's only things Apple could do because they have to basically integrate it in. There's like your point there where it actually has to be integrated. I just think we're a ways off from that. I think they can do a lot with the current connectors or HDMI. Connected to Apple TV that lets them do that stuff, and including the fact that with the AirPlay technology they have on the iPhones and iPads, it really is providing a bridge to getting them to that direction, which is going to be really great. So I just think I think the Apple TV itself is doing okay. I just think that it's the developers can take it. Is my point. Once you get an API out there and really do some really cool stuff with it, and I think that that's something that, assuming at some point they're able to make that actually happen and not worrying about that, make sure it's not
I honestly
make sure we're basically. I'm sorry, I'm watching something else. The problem basically here is the deal. Developers, once they have access to it, they'll be able to do amazing things with it we never could thought of before. And that's really just like they did with the iPhone as a platform and iPads as a platform. The same kind of thing happens with TV. Once developers, you unlock the developers, let them actually do what they really want to do with the Apple TV. There are going to be really cool things we never thought of before that could be done. So be great. So.
I honestly, like, even though I am a complete Apple fanboy, I will blindly buy Apple products, and someone's going to record that and put it on YouTube. I don't care. If it's not a good product, I wouldn't buy it. The Apple TV is just not something that I'd buy. I wouldn't even buy a new version of the desktop box. Set-top box, because there's no innovation with the Apple TV. There is currently a text chat going on, and I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. They're just the innovation on the Apple TV isn't going to come, and we're not going to see an announcement saying, "Oh, we're going to be doing, we're going to go and do an app store." We're not going to see that on Tuesday. They're not going to announce something like that. They'll announce that in WWDC.
Sure.
I don't think apps would work on the Apple TV. I think what you'll see is channels. I think you'll see like Roku channels. I think that's what you'll see. I think you'll see it be a different app store. It won't be apps. You're not going to see a calendar app or Angry Birds on Apple TV.
Right. No, but I do think there is.
I think developers will eventually, but I think it will be much more. I think the way that Apple would do an SDK for that would be much more like they do with the iTunes LP. Or the ebooks. I think it'll be much more kind of HTML based, almost, because that's how LPs work. In case you didn't know, it's just JavaScript, CSS, and HTML.
By that, he's referring to the iTunes LP, not like vinyl records.
Oh no, vinyl records work on a standard that was developed 20 years after them. No, the iTunes LP is all HTML or web based. It's a web browser, because the iTunes Store is just a web page. Those people who don't actually know it is just a web page built into iTunes.
One of the other rumors they're talking about here is larger sized iPhones.
I think that's needed, but it's never going to happen.
I think it's needed, but you're not going to see it for another 2 years, because otherwise you get serious fragmentation again. We already have fragmentation. They're not going to do it anymore.
I'm not sure if it's a question. Well, the question of screen sizes, that's the question. If they make it the same screen size, the same way the iPad mini and the iPad are
the same screen resolution, yes.
Resolution, I would say, anyways. Yeah. If they keep the resolution the same and they're just coming with something bigger, again, I mean, it being something that meets the needs for people that are looking for something that is just a larger iPhone.
No, because keeping the same screen resolution, I mean, keeping the same aspect ratio, which wouldn't actually solve any of the problems. Right. The issue with the iPhone 5 that a lot of people have, and I have it too, is like my Google Nexus 4, which I don't have. It's actually at the office. It's wider, so you actually get black bars at the top and bottom of viewing video. But for everything else, it's nicer. For viewing Facebook and stuff, it's a lot nicer because you can fetch more text kind of horizontally when you vertical. And I do find it funny these days that we've decided that phones are portrait devices, whereas every other screen in our life is a landscape device. Every other
Right.
screen that you look at, unless you're
But
a funny
that's just
person
because
like I used to,
that's just because that was traditionally in the form factor of a phone,
yeah,
because
and
you fold it.
it fits in your hand a lot better.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you think about what you do on a daily basis. Things like laptop screens and computer screens would actually probably be better at vertical because you view long documents, or you view long email threads, or you view web pages. These are all
Right.
things that should be vertical,
Right.
or portrait. But I think they'd have to make the screen wider, which means they'd have to change the pixel density or the pixel ratios, which
Mhm.
would then make a new device for people to develop for. And I think what
I
we'll
mean, yeah,
see
that's
with
why
the iPad Mini,
the
I
iPad,
think what
yeah.
we'll see with the iPad Mini, we'll see a Retina version of that, and I think that's going to be a new screen resolution. So
What new
Apple have to
resolution?
be
What
really
resolution could they do?
well, it'll be whatever the DPI on the current Retina iPad. It'll be that, but on an iPad Mini, so the size. So
Right.
it will be a different pixel, because at the moment it's close to Retina, but it's not, because it's the same pixel size, but a smaller screen. So you have more pixels per inch.
Okay.
So they're just going to up it, so you'll end up with another screen resolution. So at the moment, as a developer, you have to submit 320 by 480,
Okay.
and whatever the iPod touches, I think it's 956 by 640, and then whatever the iPhone 5 is, so 1136 by 640. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but whenever you create stuff, that's what you have to submit. And recently, it became a law with Apple that you have to submit submit apps that are iPhone 5 compatible with that screen
Good.
resolution. It has to be.
We'll go to hell.
You can't submit them anymore that aren't. So I think that's kind of a hint that we are going to see the same screen resolution, because all the new phones are going to be the same screen resolution. The new iPod
Right.
Touches as well. I think that's one of the things that the iPhone 5C is trying to solve, is they're trying to keep the same screen resolution with everything. They don't want people on 6 different screen resolutions.
Because it's not good. It's not good for developers. It's bad.
No. It's,
So
Yeah.
we're coming up to 46 minutes now. Does anyone have any closing remarks on the event? Well,
I guess I would like to.
Go on.
Well, I guess I'd like to say I can't stress enough. I'm thinking the security thing is going to be a big. I think the colors and the security thing are going to be two big things you're going to see out of the event, primarily because I believe these things that will, again, stand apart the devices, because we kind of feel like the phones begin to look like all the other phones, and they become something where if you have the security being a feature that, like I was saying before, is something really people are looking forward to, and the colors in certain markets really become something that become a key reason why some people end up buying the iPhone, because of the fact it just looks nice, and it just doesn't matter what it does. I hate to say it, but they just think it looks really pretty, and
It does.
if they come up with something that is just breathtakingly pretty, people are going to want to have it. And it'll be a status symbol for somebody in some of these countries actually having, because you can say, hey, you bought into what I'm going to call affordable luxury, which again, it's just like, Starbucks, you right to, plug anyways, but they good job of coffee and everything. But, you can basically say this is something that affluent people can end up buying, but also people that are, lower end of the spectrum still can end up affording to purchase, because that's what you do. So,
John?
I think, and I didn't mention this at all, and I don't think anyone's mentioned it, I wonder whether we'll see dual LTE radios.
What benefit does one acquire?
You are more likely to get the full throughput available on 4G.
Okay.
So theoretically, the speed on 4G is 100 megabits.
Right.
And if you put dual radios in there, then you get.
I wanted to mention, I know there was a chip. I think you can start doing actually a world phone now, where the idea is all the bands can be supported on like either single Qualcomm chip, I believe. Anyways, I think you may have seen that rumor, Joe, potentially.
Yes.
But yeah, the idea is that that's something that tends very much of an Apple-like kind of thing to do, because to keep the SKU numbers down and making it so that you can buy one phone and not have to worry about where you're in the world, it still will work. We're not contracted with different countries. That's a different story, and that's a whole other thing to worry about eventually.
I think you'll see that if it's going to come to either of them, it'll be the 5S, not the 5C, because it's an enterprise feature.
Absolutely.
That's an enterprise feature. They can say to business people, look, we have increased security. Oh, and you only need one phone for the entire world. So
that's
people go on.
That's
it. I think we'll see 2 new phones and possibly an update for
And a
iOS 7.
release date for iOS 7.
I think iOS 7 will come the 20th. I think it will be it will be with the phone because it's on the box for the phone, so it has to be on the 20th or before.
That sounds, it'll probably be the day before, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, the 19th, or you'll see it and it'll be next Tuesday.
Yeah.
The RC's not dropped yet, but this is Apple. They can do what they want. We've not had an update for weeks. Usually you get one more update for an RC, but we've not because of things that have happened. So it'll be interesting. Whatever it is, it will be interesting.
Hey, so John.
Yes.
We need to thank someone.
Oh, do we need to thank Mr. New Tech?
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. New Tech. The family over at New Tech.
Fine, the brand new family.
Yes.
Professional TriCast.
The new professional family. The business family of the world. The rulers of the video market. Technically. So the New Tech TriCaster is what we produce all our shows here on at LTK TV. We love New Tech hardware. It's awesome. We love their software as well. Actually, we use live text so that we can do all our lower third graphics. We use virtual set editor so we can do all our nice quad boxes and some secret virtual sets that are coming up on Tuesday, which you'll get to see. And we cannot recommend them enough. And we like to thank them for sponsoring us, sort of. So if you have chance and you have Twitter, just send them a tweet. Just say @NewTech Inc. NEWTEKINC. Thank you for helping at LTK TV. And they appreciate that. So we appreciate them. So if you could, oh my God, Joe, it's subliminal messaging. Look at that. Look right there. You can see it. You can see it flashing. Or can you? So yes, thank you to New Tech for helping us. We have one over. This isn't the studio I'll be using on Tuesday, by the way, guys. This is my house.
Yes.
We now have an actual studio that I will be using.
That's right.
So that's fun.
All right.
So thank you for watching this tech demo. This is essentially what this is.
Tech demo. So Brian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Stalk you.
You can stalk me on Twitter. The Twitter's at Brian M. Monroe would be best, and you can follow me for all sorts of interesting things I like to do anyways throughout my journeys in the world here. So yeah.
Special report.
John, where can we find you?
Oh, I love that transition. You can find me over at Twitter. I'm at John Coles. By all means, go over and subscribe to either myself or LTK TV on YouTube.
Yes, it's Live Tech Keynotes on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to do the plug at youtube.com/Live Tech Keynotes because I now do a weekly update video on there where you can get the latest technology news. This week's is going to be a special report on the Apple announcement.
Yeah, you'd never guess what the breaking news is going to be. Yeah.
It's not like I've written the script already or anything, but you know, NDAs. So we will post that on Wednesday. Where can we find you, Joe? I really want to stalk you online.
I don't have any doubt of that. Thank you, John. I've been Joe DeMax. You can find me on Twitter at Joe DeMax, joedemax.com, and on the LTK YouTube channel. We posted actually a video roundup, if you will, of the new TriCaster series. So if you want to know more, as well as newtech.com, there's always that. We'll have coverage of the event on Tuesday, right? No, it's cancelled.
Oh.
No.
Sorry. Breaking news. Apple has cancelled the event on Tuesday. No, I'm joking.
My heart stopped. Go on, John.
They want another 6 weeks to work on the iPhone 5C. Oh, who would have thought it?
Tell us about our coverage.
So you can head on over to, if you're watching this on Ustream, you can watch it live here.
Just sit in your chair. Stay right where you are for a further.
Just stay here. We will put the
48
countdown up. We'll put the countdown up within 24 hours of the show. If you're going over to ustream.tv/LTKTV, then you can follow it on there. You'll then get an email notification when we go live with the countdown, and you will then know how long it is until the event. If your company would like to sponsor us, which helps us do what we do, then you can email livetechkeynotes@gmail.com. And we happily take any money that people will give us to advertise. Countdowns are one of the best places to advertise, just saying.
So thank you very much for watching this video. We really hope you've enjoyed it. We know we've enjoyed creating it. We don't have an outro clip, so I'm just going to say right now, goodbye. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Bye.